Welcome to SOS VHS. Today's guest is Josh Peck, and we're talking about Good Will Hunting.
Well, thank you, Josh, for being here. So, Good Will Hunting. The movie premieres in 1998.
Yes.
In your 12.
Yeah.
1998. You already have a stand-up career. You know, you've been doing it for 2 years. But you said in your book that at that time you're having a rough time with your mom. What's happening in 1998?
So in 1997, I was 11 years old, and I remember my mom was like, "We're moving," and I was like, "When?" She said, "Tonight," and I was like, "Usually there's some like lead up, some preparation."
Yeah,
and she said, and I said, "Okay." Well, where's the movers and the boxes like I've seen in the movies?
Right.
She goes, "We're gonna leave the stuff. And let's just go. We're going to go." So basically, like my mom being a single mom, we were just out of money. And a couple bad, basically like what I didn't know is for months leading up to it, a couple bad business sort of swings. And my mom was like an entrepreneur kind of, you know, she would make money. Sometimes it would be very middle class, and then she would run out of money and like not have enough money for a slice of pizza between us. And over the last couple months, in hindsight, I noticed her like she would get just very manic or emotional, because I didn't realize that behind the scenes she was like trying to pull the strings, keeping it all afloat. And it just ended with we ran out of money and we didn't know where we were going to sleep that night. And my grandmother like wired us a couple grand for an apartment, like a week-to-week apartment in New York. And it was just my mom and I for the summer of 1998. And it was glorious. It was terrible, but glorious, which could also be the title of my book.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so did you watch this movie then when you were 12, or this is like a movie that you watched later when you were older?
Good Will Hunting was one of those movies that was like talked about all the time, but if you didn't know, like it wasn't like The Terminator or like a very self-explanatory. If you didn't know that the title character's name is Will Hunting, you're just like, what is this thing?
Right.
It just seemed like a movie grown-ups talked about a lot and people liked for some reason.
That's the year of Titanic to be compare it to something probably that every
a movie I've never seen.
You never seen Titanic?
I don't want it. I'll never see it.
Wow.
I'll never fucking see it.
I know a couple people, like George is like that. He never saw Titanic.
Really?
It's like, I draw the line here. For some reason, it's too popular for me.
It's too popular. I've never guess some other very popular movies I haven't seen. Terminator.
Oh, wow. Godfather?
Seen. That I've seen.
Okay. Marvel movies?
I haven't seen any of the last 10 years.
Right.
I made a decision at a certain point that I was a grown-up. And I was like, I'm done. It's too loud.
But did you go to the movies when you were a kid? Is that a part of your experience, like going to the theater? Or were you like more a TV person, like, watching at home? What was...
Yeah, I love Marvel movies growing up, and then I just got old quick. And I remember watching, I think, Infinity Wars and turning into my friend and going, so loud, so many cuts.
Right.
And I just said, I can't. But yeah, I used to pull the move. You used to do this where you'd go to the movies and you go to like a 10 a.m. showing, and then you just map out the rest of the day and run from theater to theater. And you go to like a 1 o'clock and then a 4 o'clock.
So when I lived in New York, I did that at the Lincoln Center AMC.
Yeah.
That I would pay
67th
for
Street,
just one movie.
Above the Barnes and Noble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I would pay for one movie, but I had it all mapped out. So go in early, and then I could watch 5 or 6 movies.
Yeah.
The whole day.
I remember we would do that with R-rated movies when I was a kid.
Right.
And then every now and then there'd be that one theater employee who was like looking out for underagers.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, Malcolm, you getting paid extra? Like, is there bonus money coming from the AMC Corp? Like, well, what are you doing? You're a tattletale. I mean, I'm trying to watch, I don't know what I wanted to watch at that time. Probably like, what was the one with the NC-17 one with the strippers?
Showgirls.
Yeah.
Basic Instinct.
That messed me up. Also, yeah, those movies
Right.
made me realize that, all my parts were working. Still are, right? You too. Both have kids.
Right.
It's best. Making kids is so fun, and then you got to raise them.
Right. That, yes. You said something and I think it's in your book, or I read it somewhere, like the best part of making a kid is actually making it, or having a kid is
practicing.
Making it. Yeah, practice it.
It's great. Sometimes I can't believe it. Like, I'll be in the throes of a romantic interlude with my wife, and I'll be like, I can't believe you've agreed to be here. You know, because I did it for so long alone.
Right. You know? So wait a second. Why did this movie? When did you see the movie, and why did it hit hard?
I saw Good Will Hunting. Probably I was around 15 years old, so maybe like 2001.
Okay.
And look, I have a very soft spot for movies like Good Will Hunting, Finding Forrester, Igby Goes Down, Rushmore, and it's just like misunderstood young male protagonists with greatness in their heart, like, and who like probably need I don't think any of them. Well, Rushmore, Max Fisher has a good father figure, but
yeah. But you identify with Will.
I
to
did
a degree.
Yeah, dumbly though, because like what we have to realize is this. Okay, none of us are Will.
Right.
We're all Ben. Right. we're the townie losers.
Chuckies.
Will is the genius who's chosen not to accept his genius.
Right.
Like, nah. We're all Ben. We're gonna get left behind. We're probably gonna, develop a pill habit. And we're going to have a lot of kids that we're going to pay some attention to. And we're going to drink. And it's just going to be a long, slow trudge towards death.
So you are an optimist. That's what we're saying.
We're just Ben. Like, we're Ben. Like, that scene where he says to Will, like, if you're here in 20 fucking years, I'll kill you myself.
Right.
Yes. But because he's going to be there. And we all want to be Will. But if we were, we'd know it. We'd be solving equations and whatnot. But we're not.
So, in 1998, going back to the year the movie came out, like, your mom tells you can, like, kind of like drop school or just go to a performing school.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did did you know you wanted to be an actor then?
Yeah, I was acting already for a couple of years, doing theater and little commercials and stuff, stand-up comedy around New York. And there was this performing arts high school. And we had to move out of, basically it was sort of that normal thing where the elementary school you went to, there was a middle school in the same district, and you just kind of went from one to the other. Mm-hmm. But now we didn't live there anymore. And so I couldn't go to that school. And my mom said, you love acting. There's this performing arts high school. Do you have any interest? And I auditioned and I got in. And a week later, I'm at this school with Jesse Eisenberg and Claire Danes and Alicia Keys. And they were older than me. But suddenly I was like surrounded by my people, And these were people who were getting to like do the thing that I loved at an adult level and making a living doing it. So that was like probably the big inflection point for sure.
Did you feel like you fit in? Like, were you happy then? Or is that like, oh.
Yeah. I was class president.
Okay.
We used to get to go out for lunch. Like, I was getting Subway sandwiches and playing spin the bottle and crushing it. Life was so good, man. It was so good.
Okay.
Yeah, 6th grade. 48th between 8th and 9th. Sometimes we get the $5 beef and broccoli Chinese lunch special. Other times there was a deli across the street and get like a turkey and Swiss. I really just focused on the food.
Yeah.
But it was great.
But you didn't stay there for that long, right? Because a year later you're in LA.
2 years, yeah. 6th
later.
and 7th grade, yeah.
Okay. So I read that your first agent, Sid Gold, I think was his name, right?
Yeah.
That you were 8 when you got your first agent. How did that happen? In terms of like, how did you look for an agent at 8 years old? Like I just remember being 8 and I was a kid. I couldn't even imagine working, or looking for an agent. I didn't know what an agent was.
Yeah, I was 8 years old reading this magazine called Backstage Magazine, which was a magazine for actors. And in the back, there were classifieds and it would have jobs and also agents and managers. And there was this big ad, Sid Gold at Gold Star Entertainment. Sid Gold, the father of comedian Elon Gold, funny enough. And it just said, I represent performers of all ages. And I was like, I qualify. Bam. Like, and I went in and I met Sid Gold and he's like, if you can get a comedy act together, I will get you booked at Caroline's Comedy Club. And I put 5 minutes together making fun of my mom and kids at school and, observational. What's the deal with fruit roll-ups? No, I don't know.
Right.
Could you imagine?
I can.
Yeah.
But I made a movie with Jenna Ortega, and she was around that age when she watched Man on Fire and saw Dakota Fanning acting and said, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Did you have a moment like that, prior to seeing? I mean, what are you doing reading Backstage?
Yeah, I remember I went to camp when I was a little kid and there was the traveling little performing arts troupe of the camp. And it was kids who were in that program, which was an extra $100 a month. And you got to go. And I was like, I'd like to do that. So I was always, but I just like being around it. I also wanted to be the stage manager or kind of just be the person who ran the lights. I didn't necessarily have to perform. But then my mom told me that if we're going to do this, we're going to swing for the fences here. So get it together, kid. Okay. I'm not raising no stage manager. And I was like, thanks, Mom. And I've been supporting her for 28 years.
Were you because you mentioned that you guys were having some financial issues in 98. Is this a part of your motivation? I can get a job and help my mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Super mature for an 8-year-old.
I just wanted, I hated being powerless, which is kind of the theme of being a kid. And I think for some kids, if you have a more stable life, the idea of powerlessness doesn't come across to you that early, right? Because life is good. You don't need to exert your power because things are taken care of to a certain extent. But when you're younger and you feel like things are amiss, and it wasn't any fault of my mom's, except that it's a bitch being a single mom, especially in New York, especially during that time. And she had to do it all on her own. And she did a great job, but no matter what, there was going to be some challenges.
Right.
And I wanted to help. I wanted to fill in the gaps.
So when did you realize you were funny?
Oh, I don't know. I think it just worked well for me because I was so chubby growing up that I would just easily make fun of myself before you could make fun of me. I like the power of comedy and whatnot. And then when I started on Nickelodeon and Drake and Josh and all those shows, it was just it was right in my wheelhouse because it was big and shticky and it was the kind of comedy I grew up loving. And it didn't take a lot of, honing. I just had to do bad impressions of Billy Madison or all the things that I grew up loving. You know?
Yeah. So in growing up Will is from Southie, right? It's kind of a rough neighborhood in Boston. You grew up in Hell's Kitchen. How was growing up in New York in that area in the 90s? Was it a good area, sketchy?
Yeah, I was like Will Hunting if Will had a Jewish mother. So I grew up in the bad area, but I had my Jewish mother who was like, you're not going outside.
Keeping you in line.
Stay here. The food's here. We're going to watch, I'm going to watch the Golden Girls, and you're going to watch me watch the Golden Girls.
Okay.
And have some pizza, or some snacks. And that's basically, yes, my mom just kept me fat, and I was treated like a Wagyu cow. She just kept me fat and very, sedentary. Safe, yeah.
So you did you have a pack, a group of kids you were going out with and into fist fights and?
We were just doing dumb little like city rat kid shit. Like we would just steal stuff, or like my buddy Louie would steal things. Shout out Louie, still stealing. I hope he doesn't see this. And like, yeah, as soon as we were 12 years old, it would just, we were off to the races. And then especially like I would go back to New York all throughout my teen years, and it would be, but it was just minor. But you know, you just go like get drunk, go to people's above ground pools in the Bronx, get in like stupid little altercations, go like break bottles in you know, in people's like backyards, and like try to like, you know, smash 40 bottles and really low level, not even misdemeanors. Right. Very sad. Not cool.
No. Okay.
Like, I'm trying to think. We'd smoke blunts on my friend's roof. My buddy Jeremy, we smoked a blunt on his roof once. And then we came home and his parents were awake and waiting for us because we didn't realize he lived on the 5th floor and the roof was on the 6th.
Right.
So it just traveled down. They could hear us talking. So we came downstairs.
Bad criminals.
His parents were not pleased.
Yeah. Okay. So was this Sid Gold like a mentor to you of sorts, like a Sean and Will, or was he just like your first
I've been looking for a Robin Williams type, you know, person in my life.
Right.
Sean the therapist.
Yes.
And I still haven't found him.
Okay.
But you and that beard, how's that beard feeling?
It's weird.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But you know, committing to the character.
Can we end this with me crying in your arms and you telling me it's not my fault?
It's not your fault. Yes, definitely, we'll do that. So you no, it wasn't a mentor. He was just a means to an end. He
just wanted me to get out to the auditions, and it was weird because at that time, like you would be a 10-year-old, and the audition would say, "Looking for a 10-year-old to come and." Do a Oreo commercial, and it'd be you and like, I'm not kidding, 90 kids in a waiting room.
Right.
And you might wait there 2.5 hours to be like, and then you'd come in and they'd be like, slate your name. You'd be like, Josh Peck. And then they'd be like, hold this up. And you'd be like, okay. And go, boy, do I love coconuts. You just be like, boy, do I love coconuts. Thank you. And then and then you did that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how, I mean, were you sensitive as a kid, or like, because I always tell people like actors need to have a very thick skin, you know, if you want to go into that business, because you're going to hear no all the time and it could affect you if you don't build that.
But you work with great, you know, performers and actors, right? So let's say Bobby and Andrew specifically.
Right.
I don't know them well the way you do, but I know them a little. They seem like two of the most sensitive people to walk the earth, right? Definitely. And they're wildly successful.
Yeah, I think Bobby used it as a kind of like a defense mechanism. Like people are saying no, I'm going to prove them wrong. Kind of a motivator. Yeah. You talk in the book about like pain being a motivator. Yeah. So I think that is how Bobby works too. You know, like kind of like, oh, you're saying I cannot do this? Let me prove you wrong.
But he also seems easily wounded. Maybe not as much anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure if in the business itself, or you know, definitely in his life, he's more sensitive than he looks.
Than he lets on.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like going to auditions every day or like doing open mics. That thing is brutal.
Yeah, he's tough in that way for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still. I think my whole sort of. My whole journey, or the thing I'm still working on, is being okay with how sensitive I am and not trying to treat it anymore.
Okay.
I'm very sensitive.
Okay. Yeah, it's a profession where like, and that's why I see a lot of actors then have like wild periods of time that, you know, when like they coping, things are not going well. So like the drugs, the alcohol, the whatever it is, you know, like that they need something to escape.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, I mean, I don't know how you feel about your kids being actors. You know, I wouldn't want my kid to be an actor in the you know.
We're not allowing it.
It's just like, no, mine is gonna go into sciences. You know, yes. Like no.
What science?
I don't know, something like medicine or engineering, something real.
Can you imagine your beautiful daughter, doctor, and PhD?
It's like, oh, I want to be in film. Like, I want to say, no. Let's do something else because it's too brutal.
AI's going to replace us.
Right.
It's all over.
Right.
I can't believe I've seen it in my lifetime.
Right.
We're being replaced by the robots.
It's insane.
Will Smith's out of commission, right? He can't save us. No one can.
Right.
It's not good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I had a thought today of like, did you think about AI before January of 2023? In any real way?
I thought about AI last year when I started seeing like certain like algorithms doing jobs that were okay, like editing and like, oh, there's things coming, you know.
Yeah.
But now it's just incredible, and it's pretty interesting how, I mean, I don't see they're gonna if we've been real, I think it's gonna be a tool that we are gonna use, but I don't think it's gonna replace us. I think it's gonna be just, okay, I'll write a script way faster because now I have this assistant that is so smart, or I'll edit faster, or I'll do things faster. Like, it's gonna be a revolution in terms of, you know, industry, but I don't think it's gonna be, oh, now maybe a gimmick. The first movie written by ChatGPT, you know, or the first movie directed by whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's gonna last. It's like, how many times have you heard this? Oh, now everybody can shoot a movie with an iPhone, and then how many movies have been shot with an iPhone? Okay, 2 that you heard of, you know, like, I think it's just a gimmick, and then people will get tired of that. God
willing.
Hopefully. But it is incredible.
You get the AI Josh Peck going?
Yeah.
I'm not so great as pure me. You know?
Is that your improved you?
It's not going to take much for AI to lap me, right? Like, there's plenty of room for improvement here. No, I just think it's wild that, like, I don't think I mentioned AI or thought about it in any real way till the last 3 months.
Right.
And it's amazing how quickly, like, every week I'll be like, oh, it's getting better.
Because it goes exponential. It's crazy.
Terrifying.
I'm down. Can AI bring me back to life?
Jesus Christ.
Please?
Yeah,
bring me back to life, AI.
Oh,
our producer. It's bare bones. Yeah,
this is terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so glad. You know, I'm wearing this Mets hat in protest.
Okay.
Because I heard a story, and it could be a lie, a dirty lie. But I heard that Ben Affleck is such a hard-body karate Red Sox fan. Have you heard this story?
Yes.
In what was it in Gone Girl? David Fincher wanted him to wear a Mets hat.
Right.
And he refused. And David Fincher was like, it's your character. It's not you, Ben.
Right.
He's like, I'm not doing it. He's like, no fucking way. I'm like, and I think Fincher won.
Right.
But I'm wearing this in defiance.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So, well, you said that your mom told you that you were not an accident, you were a surprise.
Yeah.
But I checked this out, and it's
I'm an accident.
Because
found your dad.
Your dad was in his 60s, right? Your mom was 42. They had a one-night fling.
But they hooked up twice in that night, which my mom didn't tell me till I was a teenager. She like added it.
But it's like less than 5% chances.
Yeah, I guess so.
But
I just can't believe my mom. Like, why does she have to say, you know, we hooked up, we ate, and then we hooked up again? I'm like, you ate? Like, you had post deli, like farty sex?
Yeah, I don't think I had that conversation with my parents ever. But I guess like growing up just with your mom, she becomes your best friend, no?
Yeah, she didn't tell me that till later on.
Right.
But yeah, that's crazy thought. 5%. What's the numbers on that? What's the math of like time in which you're ovulating?
Right. So per menstrual cycle after 40, you know, it's only 42%. Yeah, I looked this up. I was just curious to see like how this happened. And then, so how was growing up with a dad like a chip on your shoulder? Is something like that you were looking for like all the time, or was it like, oh, this is just my normal reality, I don't care?
Both. I didn't miss it because I didn't know that I didn't know what I didn't have, you know, so it wasn't bad in that way, but I just found it deeply annoying. I didn't like that there were like days devoted to fathers.
Right.
I didn't like that I had my friends' dads who would like do this false flag, like posturing to be like, well, little Josh Peck over there doesn't have a dad, so let me, stand in for the next couple hours. I'm like, I don't need you to teach me how to swing a bat, bro. Like, it's not going to help. I'm 100 pounds overweight at 11 years old. Like, it's not looking good. I'm not going to be the next Jorge Posada. Like, it's not going to happen for me. So I found it deeply annoying. And then, of course, as I got older, I realized the effect that not having a dad, it certainly informed the way I looked at the world.
Right. And did it scare you to have a kid at any point? Like, were you like always want to have kids, or do you? Because my wife had the same situation.
Oh, really?
And I know there is always something there. There's like a hole that is never fulfilled. Like it's something. The way that you look at things is a little different than mine, for example, because my parents were happy together.
I think I definitely was nervous, especially when I had a boy, because I was like, I'm not masculine. I'm, a theater geek.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to like teach him what it means to be a man. But me being a good dad to him is like sort of paying an amends to me as a little boy. So showing up for him. I heard someone say this in a podcast the other day, why she didn't have kids. And the woman said, I just needed to end the cycle. Like, her parents were messed up and her parents' parents were messed up. She's like, I wanted the dysfunction to end with me.
Wow.
Like, I didn't need to give it to anybody else.
Right.
And I think that is a version. And then I think what I'm hopefully doing with my two boys is a version of just trying to correct the wrongs.
Change the cycle, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think you were gonna have kids growing up, or it was something that until you met your wife was like, no way, I'm having kids?
I knew I'd have kids. I never thought I'd be married. The being married didn't interest me.
Yeah, because also your mom never had like a partner, right, with you?
No,
in the picture. So
I don't think I introduced. I dated one girl who had met my mom before my wife, and then no one has met my mom, or really my friends or anybody other than the first girl I dated, because it was like new and exciting and I couldn't believe that I had a girlfriend, and then my wife.
Right.
It's crazy.
So did you have that experience that Robin Williams says in the movie to Will of like, you don't really know what it is to wake up next to a girl and finally,
Yeah, and
say,
she farts.
Yeah.
She farts, Is that the best?
Yeah.
My wife used to fart in her sleep. I've heard folklore about that scene too, that he improvised that.
The idiosyncrasies or that make the that's the thing that he misses the most, or the little things.
Yeah, she used to wake herself up. She go, "Whoa, was that you?" Like that's, and I heard that's why Matt Damon's laughing so hard in the scene is because Robin Williams, improvised a spit about how his wife was farting.
It feels like a very genuine moment in the movie.
I don't think I ever heard my wife. She's gonna hate me for this until she was pregnant and asleep. And I think just she couldn't help it, and one flew by, and I was like,
the next level of intimacy.
It made me love her more.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, I hope she feels better.
Yeah, because there's different personalities, right? Like we talked about Bobby before, like he doesn't care, right. Fart in the mic at any point, right? But if you are more like normal, maybe like doing that requires a lot of deep knowledge of the other person, a lot of trust.
Yeah. Do you do that in front of your wife?
I don't. I don't try not to.
Me too.
It's something that, yeah.
But you know who you're going to do it in front of? Your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
in front of my boys?
Yeah.
I'm like, welcome to manhood, right? We're just gonna this is a free fly zone. Just let it happen.
Okay, so going back to your early years, you're doing stand-up, you go into that performance high school, very young, like, how do you get to LA?
I auditioned for a show called The Amanda Show with Amanda Bynes, and it was the second season, and the people who were in charge of the show didn't want me on the show, and they I had auditioned for all these different Nickelodeon shows. I would never book it, but the president of Nickelodeon liked me, and his name's Albie Hecht.
Yeah.
And he put in the word, and he was like, if you want another season of your show, you have to put this kid on. and I got forced upon this show, but I was 14 years old. My mom and I drove across country, and suddenly it was like a whole new beginning. And we moved. I remember we stopped in Las Vegas on the way to LA. Mm-hmm. We stayed at the Mirage. I think I caught an STD from the bed at the Mirage.
Right.
Because I was 14, so I wasn't hooking up. But I remember like all of a sudden we were done. I think maybe I just was in the pool too much and the mesh netting from the bathing suit irritated me. But I couldn't move because I was so inflamed. So we drive the 5 hours to LA, and we went to the urgent care right around the corner from this studio in Burbank. So this area means a lot to me.
Wow.
And I remember getting a prescription for some ointment, and shout out ointment. And
but was your mom like, okay, yes, we're doing this. I'll put whatever I have going on, I'll put it on hold. I'll drive you to LA.
Yeah. She was, but it was very temporary. She was like, you have a job for 4 months, and this is odd and a once in a lifetime thing, and you can come home. Like, people leave for 4 months. It's not super typical, but
not at 14.
No, but I guess like she was like, I think she was only thinking within this 4 month span. So she's like, you'll go to school for 4 months, but if we have to come back to New York, you didn't miss the whole year, right? You missed a part of the school year. You'll come home. It'll be a rough couple of weeks reintegrating.
Right.
And we'll fall back in our old thing. We'll figure it out. And as soon as we got here, I knew immediately, I'm like, we're never going home.
Did you stay in Burbank?
Yeah, at the Oakwood Apartments.
Wow.
It's weird over there.
So weird. Like I mean, probably you know that it has a huge history of like kid actors staying there, right? And like the season of mothers coming with their kids throughout, the whole country is pretty. I mean, usually it's pretty sad. Yes, you have the Michelle Williams and the 3 or 4 poster child that stay there. But usually, I mean, there's a documentary about it.
Yeah,
that is pretty scary. I don't know if you ever seen it.
I just like that me and the kids start conversation. I'm still in the we'll see.
Right.
It's like he's not Michelle Williams.
Right.
But he's not some of the bad ones. Like, there's still time for him.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like it's like a little bit like of a metaphor of LA in terms of the broken dreams of so many people coming through that place. So you were one of the few that actually made it.
But also coming from New York, for anyone who doesn't know, but the Oakwood Apartments, it's basically like corporate housing. So it's furnished, it's month to month, so it's super transient, and it happens to be right by like 3 of the major studios.
Right.
So it was common that if you got any work here, they would put you up there. And so there was a lot of kid actors.
And they have like places to
run.
It
was beautiful. Like that was the one thing. Coming from a 500 square foot apartment in New York in Hell's Kitchen, I was like, this is a 2-bedroom. There's a pool. There's a snack bar. Like, I loved it.
Right.
I couldn't get out. We only lived there for 3 months, but then we moved to like a slightly elevated version called Avalon, which was half a mile away.
Also here, like in
on Vineland.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lived at the one on Vineland, and I lived there. Are you ready? From 14 till 29.
Wow.
I got my mom an apartment at 18 and stayed there because.
By yourself? So your mom moved?
Yeah. And like I got her a really nice place, and not that it wasn't nice, but it was transient, and it was like no one lived there for 15 years.
No way.
But I got there and I was like, hold on, this is a 2-bedroom apartment. We have a security guard. We have a racquetball court.
Yeah.
There's a basketball court. There's a gym. There's a pool. There's a barbecue area. We're walking distance to a Rite Aid.
Right.
And a Ralph's, and it was a nice Ralph's, which was our supermarket. And it's $1,800 a month. I could not. You know how much they raised our rent each year?
How much?
They didn't.
Right.
It stayed $1,800. So I saw no reason to leave. I tried to get my wife to move in when we got engaged. She refused.
So when you met your wife, you were living there?
Yeah. She slept there for 5 years.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I know all those places because I've worked with a lot of students and I've seen them it feels like very temporary house and come here for a job or for school and then you leave.
It's okay. I'm trying to think of who. A lot of boy bands live there.
Right.
A lot of semi-famous people would live there, TV stars, different actors, musicians. And then, you would just hear like there was a murder in building 1. Like, really? Like, yeah, someone got stabbed in the elevator. And you're like, recently? They're like, last night.
Wow.
Like, there was always something. The police were always there. It was fun. It's exciting.
So how long do you do the Amanda show? A year only, right? Like,
yeah, we only did one season and then it got canceled.
And then this is something that I've seen a lot in your shows. We'll get to that a lot of the shows that you are in get canceled quickly.
What a segue.
But wait a second, but then at 15 you have your own show.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, how many people have a show at 15? Like 5 people?
Just me and Keenan Cal.
Right.
Yeah. And Amanda.
So was that like, I'm living the dream, this is it?
Yes, I really enjoyed doing it because I enjoyed the comedy and it was really fun. But, I talk about it in the book. Like, I still lived at the Avalon apartment. It was on Nickelodeon, which was primarily watched by kids.
Right.
And so, I think once it came out, it also had like a long period where it took like 2 or 3 years for the first episode to even come out. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it didn't really become very popular until like social media and reruns, because it just, for the first 5 or 6 years it was on the air, primarily the people who watched it were just kids from 14 to 17, which was great being, relevant to them.
Yeah.
But then they got older and then their siblings watched it and then their siblings watched it.
Right. And you got there a little too early before the streamers, right? Like you didn't leverage into, okay, now I'm going to have this amazing career because I can do these other things.
Yeah. It was a little more one and done.
More niche. Yeah. But it's still like you did it for 4 years, right? I think, or 5 years. It's like 60 episodes.
Yes.
And you're a living working actor. I mean, I feel like by the time you're 18, I feel you had a full life already. Yeah. I remember me being 18. It's like, oh, I'm going to college now. It's like I haven't done anything. I other than being a kid all my life. You had a career already. So after. Do you think like the Drake and Josh show is the thing that people will always identify you with? Is this something that it means so much to many people that it is like, I don't know, is your Indiana Jones if you're Harrison Ford?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Because I feel like also because in this movie, right, like in Will Hunting, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck it transcends the movie. They wrote it together. They're best friends in real life. Do you think that a little bit of that idea when you see 2 people on screen that people project on that
yes.
social relationship, that it was a little before social media, no? But I heard that you guys have some sort of beef because like you guys weren't really friends, but for the people outside the world, like you guys are, of course they're best friends.
Sure.
How did that, I guess the question is when do you realize like that relationship with an audience you have to cultivate and talk to them and people will assume things about you that are not necessarily real?
Yeah, I think you have to just accept that the audience is going to feel the way that they do, and it was their experience, and I think people marry themselves to the first image that they fall in love with, and Steve Carell is one of our greatest, actors alive and is in so many iconic roles. But for many people, he'll always be Michael Scott, right? And that surely isn't a negative. So instead of me feeling like, oh, I want to erase my origin story, not out of shame, just because when you do things in high school and of that age, you tend to want to be able to do a bunch of other things. You want to try something new. And
of course,
you might not want to be defined by the first thing you did.
Right. Like Kubrick was able to erase his first movie, or you cannot do that anymore. Anyone can, or you said at some point that if you weren't an actor, you could have just burned the yearbooks and that's it. Right.
Right.
But you're all over, no, you cannot erase your childhood because it's they're out there for everybody to see.
It's in reruns.
Right. It's
yeah.
in reruns.
My awkward teenage years are in reruns.
Right.
On Nick at Night. No, I've really I've made my peace with it in a good way. It's wonderful. And I think I was just a knucklehead, being a guy in his late teens, early 20s and wanting to sort of rally against what I was known for, or the way people rebel against their parents or whatever.
Right.
And then over the last 10 years and growing up and seeing the effect that it's had on people and families, and the show means a lot to me, and I'm very proud that people, many people enjoyed it. And I just think it'll always be a part of my story, and hopefully I can do additional things that are cool too.
Right.
Yeah.
So after the show is over,
but not things that get canceled very quickly.
Yeah. Yes. Things that last long. I mean,
only everything I've done other than Drake and Josh, you mean?
Right. I feel also like the rhythm today is so fast that things get on and off.
They get full seasons.
Yeah. And that's it. The one full season.
That's pretty good.
Yes.
Grandfathered my show with John Stamos.
Yes.
We got picked up for the back 8. We did 22 full.
Yes, you did.
Right?
Yeah.
And then
that's it.
We're done. You get that call, right? It's
yeah.
bad. When it's good news, everyone from your team calls.
Right.
When you get that call and they're like, we've got your agent, your manager, your lawyer, 2 assistants, and a couple people we pulled out from the street on this call.
Everybody wants credit.
This is good.
We did this for you.
Right. And when you get the call and you can hear it in the assistant's voice, they're like, we've got Dan. One moment for Dan. You're like, fuck Dan. Dan's about to break my heart.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think being an actor is such a difficult, emotional roller coaster that if you don't have everything in your head, that's what I'm thinking, growing up as a child actor, although you don't like that kind of label, but it puts you in a position of okay, at what point am I going to go crazy? And I see it in so many people that is well, you had your moment too when I guess after 18 you just went crazy.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if that was the result, but so you finished the show, you lost 127 pounds.
Yeah.
Is that a moment you feeling a little lost, or finding your next job, or finding who you are now as a new, because I think for comedians sometimes the weight could be an asset, it's chubbiness is a little funny. Did you feel I don't know, Samson without your hair?
I don't know. I think that I lost the weight while we were doing the show. So I think once we were done, I just hit the ground running, and I was young, and I basically had about a year and a half of runway of savings. And I was like, well, I'd never had that much, runway in my life. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like enough time to find something, and I did, but I didn't know that it was going to happen that quickly. But, I booked this movie called The Whackness within a year, and it won Sundance, and it was with my favorite actor. So it was in a weird way, even though after that movie, I'd go through, 5 or 6 years of very challenging, feeling like I wasn't finding the right parts or wasn't booking the jobs I wanted to. Having that happen when I was 20 and very much validate, no, you can play at this level. You just need the opportunity.
Right.
And you have to hopefully be the right guy for it and whatnot. That carried me a long time. So it was weirdly the universe was we're going to invite you to the table, and then we're going to kick you out of the restaurant for the next 5 years. But enjoy this meal because it's going to be great.
But is that, I think... Well, in your book and in other interviews that I read of you, you said there's a time where I start doing drugs and alcohol, and I have a few years where it's bad. It obviously has to affect your job, right? Because everybody can see that even if you don't see that. But coming out of Drake and Josh, I feel and also losing the weight, probably looking however you wanted to look. I feel you are on a high, but are you empty inside? Meaning, do you have this hole that cannot be filled? What is the issue, I guess, or what's the problem that you think you're trying to cover up with the alcohol and drugs at such a good time for you?
I think it was being big, right? Having weight on you, being overweight, can be like a sign of a lot of things. It can be a symptom of a lot of things.
Right.
And for some people, it's just like a love of life. And of eating and enjoying and dining, and I had friends growing up when I was a little kid who would like whip their shirts off, and they had a big belly like I did, and they'd jump in the pool, and they had girlfriends, and they didn't think twice about it, and it was beautiful, as well they should. They didn't have the shame that I carried that was created by me, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, being overweight was like a symptom of something deeper. Right. And I just was sort of trying to eat it away. And then when I lost weight, I didn't really deal with that thing that was going on that was deeper, which was probably a lot of the dad stuff, but probably just stuff that I was, the financial insecurity, the dad stuff growing up, paired with that I had like some talent for this business, which has so much rejection. And so it was like this trifecta of things that was just weighing heavily on my brain.
And how were you able to turn it around, I guess? Like, what was the thing that clicked and you say, okay, I have to stop doing this, or I need to, I guess, work these issues or find out what the issues are, even if you knew at that time?
I got into 12-step recovery when I was 21, and I've been there and sober, knock wood, ever since. And it's worked well for me. And there's a lot of ways to do it, but for me, it was like I just felt like I was finally, like I'd found my tribe. I'd found my people who, they were my peers, and it was something that I could wrap my head around and identify with. And I think many of us walk around in our lives feeling terminally unique. Mm-hmm. And we feel like we're the only ones who feel this way. We're the only ones that see the world this way. And I think that's where our brains want us, right? And if you have the kind of brain that I do, it wants me in a deep, dark corner by myself, feeling like hopeless and without resource. And when I walked into a meeting for the first time, and I was surrounded by these people who were sharing their stories and the way that they thought and the way that they drank and the way that they looked at the world, and I was like, oh, that's me. I had never heard anyone talk like that. And that was the pivotal moment of my life, because these people were attractive. Like, they had families and careers and nice lives. They weren't just like, broken the way I was when I came in. So suddenly I was like, oh, they think like me, they are like me, but they've figured out how to live. So I want to sign up to whatever they're doing. And, if it hadn't worked, I would have looked for something else. It just happened to work.
And what do you think is this structure? Are you good with the structure, with like having like to do X, Y, Z every day? Do you wake up and have a routine? Or it was more like, okay, I found my, like you said, like my people, and I'm not alone in the world, so that helps.
It's so hard, right? We all wake up and we look at social media, and I'm like, if I'm not cold plunging, saunaing, running 20 miles, and like drinking celery juice, I'm fucking up, right? Like, it's all the projection we put on ourselves.
Yes.
But yeah, I already went hiking today. Trying to get ready for this. Exercise helps. I like the sauna. I try to eat well. I ate 6 donut holes on my ride here. I think I was nervous. There's also a really good donut store named Dad's Donuts down the street. Have you been?
No.
It's good stuff.
Don't tell me.
Yes. Treat yourself. You're a dad now. You have a 3-month-old. Okay.
Right. That's my excuse.
Yeah. Donuts are great. I think donuts might be my next thing. Like, I might need to go into Donuts Anonymous.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been scared of drugs because I think I have an addictive personality. When I like something, I overdo it. Yeah. And therefore, like, I never wanted to do that because I knew I was going to like it, and therefore I was going to be in that position. But I feel like most of us are, like, to a degree addicted to things, like in now social media and everything, like that dopamine that we are chasing.
I'm trying to get off that.
But you were so good at... So wait a second, like, because you did a pivot in your life after, you made those 2 movies. Were great movies, right? Great performances.
Yeah.
18, 19?
I did. Which ones do you mean? Mean Creek?
Mean Creek, yeah.
Mean Creek, I was like 16. Wow. Whackness, I was 20.
20.
Yeah,
20.
yeah.
Okay, so at 20. And after that, I think you said in your book, I think it's in your book, where it said like, okay, now I don't get good reviews anymore, or I don't, the next projects are not working out well for you. And that kind of like you look, people are asking you, hey, you need to go to classes, or like,
are you still acting and all that? Yeah.
So a question is like, because like I feel like when a kid actor like does it so well, like it comes natural. You see a Jennifer Lawrence or even Jenna Ortega, like it's like they didn't do classes, they just were good and people found them, and then that was it.
Yeah.
And now you grow up and you are like that, right? You were funny from the beginning, like you have some magic. You said something like comedy is like music, and you found the rhythm. So now you are at a point where people are saying, hey, maybe you are not that good. Is that how you felt? Is like, how do you...
I think I just felt not good because I went through so many... It's just the life of an actor is... in many regards, like all through that time, I would like work on a pilot that wouldn't get picked up, or I would do, some little movie that just really didn't come together. And you were like, oh my God, I hope this never sees the light of day. Like,
right.
So there were things like that. And then in between, there's 100 auditions that don't go your way.
Yeah.
So I think for those like years from maybe 21 to 26, and then you do things. I did this pilot, I remember, for Amazon with my friend Natalie Z, and it was the first pilot that Amazon did when they started doing TV.
Yeah.
And it was so good, and it was so funny, and it was like this, I was like, this is the one, guys. I'm like, I'm going to start, everybody from my agency is about to call and be like, we're picked up and you're famous. And I remember they picked up the pilots they made with our pilot. Our pilot was about a Los Angeles football team where the owner dies, and his wife, who's kind of like, what?
Well, that sounds a little bit like Ted Lasso.
Is it Ted Lasso? It is, right?
Yeah.
Wow, maybe they stole it from us. But well, I guess it's exactly that. But basically, like, the wife, wow, it's Ted Lasso. I was in the pilot for Ted Lasso. But yeah, it's actually very similar. But like, and it's basically, it was this half-hour show that was like kind of light, and it was, I remember they picked up Transparent, which was like crazy brilliant.
Yeah.
Mozart in the Jungle, Bosch. These were all of Amazon's first pilots.
Right, that's the first batch of Amazon originals.
Yeah. And I just remember that they said, we're going to treat our TV shows like we treat shoes. We're going to let the audience decide what's good. Whatever gets 5 stars are the shows we're going to get picked up. Like whoever gets the highest ratings from the people. And I remember our show got the highest rating, and I was like, it's a wrap. I'm about to make $40,000 an episode.
Wow.
10 episodes a year, less taxes, less agent and manager. You know what that is? It's $160,000 a year. Like, I was just like, great. Like, I don't have to sweat it anymore.
Yeah.
And I remember we got the call, and they were like, they picked up every show but yours.
Interesting.
And, whatever. Amazon wanted to make like very impressive,
high production. And
like awards shows, like shows that were going to win awards. And I was just more like popcorn, easygoing. But again, so I say that only to say there's so many moments like that in an actor's career no one sees except the people experiencing it. So that's what like the next 5 or 6 years look like. So it was just a lot of self-doubt and a lot of mini wins and plenty of losses.
So how do you do that pivot to social media, I guess? Like when did you see that that's a creative outlet that you can use to your advantage?
Well, during that time, I social media just got popular.
Yeah.
And I started making these videos that people liked.
Yeah.
And I could have walked away and just no one would have remembered, but I had a friend in social media early on who was like, don't let anyone tell you what this is, because I work in it and even I don't know. This is like 2013.
Right.
He said, but I can tell you that connecting with your audience and having them tell you everything that's good, bad, and in between of what you're doing and being able to go straight to them, that's powerful. So do that. And so I made a video every day because I had never been able to go straight to the audience. I was always at the mercy of the big machine and praying that it works.
An intermediary is always there.
A million things.
Right.
There's no reason movies should be good. It's wild that Good Will Hunting came together.
Yeah.
Do you know the story of Good Will Hunting? Like of them getting it made?
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, like the Castle Rock thing, that it was at this company, Rob Reiner's company, for years in development, and they bought it and they couldn't, originally, like, I think the notes were make it more of a thriller. Like,
I think, no, it was a thriller. And
it
they
was.
told him, like, let's lose the thriller and make it about the relationship between the therapist and the...
Yeah. And then the 2-month thing.
Right.
Which was basically, they really wanted to... What was it? They wanted to star in it?
Right. So the studio wanted Leonardo DiCaprio.
You know the story. I don't even know.
Brad Pitt
You say it. Okay.
And
DiCaprio and Brad Pitt.
Right.
Play DiCaprio as well.
Right. Right. So
Brad Pitt is Can you imagine Brad Pitt's Boston accent?
It's like
not good.
They weren't big actors.
I'm gonna go out here and say Brad Pitt, one of the greatest living actors.
Yeah.
I bet you the Boston accent would have been just okay.
The thing is, like, what they were really smart, and I think a lot of actors have done it since, is like, hey, write your own material, because then you own it and there's nothing people can do about it, you know? So they had a list of directors, right? And the directors they admire, and like, hey, if any of these directors says yes, we can do it.
Well, they wanted an executive at Castle Rock to direct it.
Right.
And so they gave him 2 months, right? And they were like, if you guys want to be in this, you got to get the director, and they wanted Gus Van Sant, right?
Gus Van Sant was in a list of directors that they would work with.
Yes.
And he said yes, and I mean, it's incredible because, like, Casey Affleck is in it, right?
Yeah.
Like, although he's a minor character, but all actors that then you've seen, like, doing great performances.
Yeah, but he has the best line. My boy Will's wicked smart.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good one.
He said that he improvised most of his lines. I don't know if that sounds too written, but yeah.
It's good.
It's good.
Oh, man. There's so many good ones.
Double burger.
What'd he say?
Double burger.
Double burger. That's so good.
So in that time you're doing social media.
Yeah.
The shows you're doing are not like huge hits.
Yeah.
But are you able to, monetize that social media to make it like, okay, I can still live okay?
Yeah, I started making money, and it was it was all like, I spent probably almost 2 years just focusing on that because it was great. And I had never been able to sort of make money like that where I didn't have to ask anyone for permission.
Right.
And also I'd never been able to make content like that where I didn't have to ask people for permission. So it was, I remember for that, it was like 2014 to 2015. It was the thing that I kind of focused the most on, for sure.
And so at that time, you're sober, you're working. That when you meet your wife?
Yeah, I met my wife at a Halloween party in 2011.
Oh,
not far from here.
Right.
The Valley brought us together.
And was it like love at first sight? Was it like
for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did. No, actually, don't watch this page. No, it was. Of course, it was love at first sight, but I was a mess. I was 24 years old.
Right.
I was like, I'd never been in love. I'd never really been in love before, and I was totally like, I just was like, no. Like 20, like to find the woman you're gonna marry at 24 in show business.
Yeah.
I might as well have been 10.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't happen. So I was just like I gotta work. I gotta provide for my mom. I got, I'll worry about, finding someone to get married to, like, in my late 30s.
Right.
But as does the right person, we just continue to grow and evolve with each other. And like, we wouldn't let each other go, even in the face of our odd growing pains of her, working on her stuff, on me working on my stuff. I had to work on way more stuff than she did. But it was just kind of like, oh, I'll be here when you get over whatever it is you're working through.
Yeah.
That's huge. Because some people go like, I don't want to be any part of this growing, this growth spurt you're about to go through.
Yeah. Was she the person that kind of like after being with her, like I'm normal, that chasing normalcy that you were chasing, like kind of like, okay, I'm center, I can do life now.
Yeah, like it's like Bobby says, like her family's good whites.
Yeah.
Like they're just like a beautiful Irish Catholic, good people, like solid. Like I like them all very much. They eat, you know, a protein and a carb and a vegetable at almost every meal.
Right.
And salad. They have holidays. They like, they really impressed me, and they still do almost 13 years later.
Yeah. Did you see in her family the way that you wanted your family to be, the one that you were creating?
Yeah. But her dad is an ex-NFL football player. Okay. And the second time I met him, he wanted to play catch. And I'm like, let's not do this.
Right.
I was like, because I don't want to disappoint you this early. Right. Like, so let's just keep on, you know, pretending each other. And then once you fall in love with me and realize how hilarious and adorably Jewish I am, we can play catch, because I'm not going to catch it. It's bad. So, it was so bad.
Your kids maybe will grow up.
They're athletic, and it's all my wife. It's none of me. My knees rub together when I walk, and I'm thin.
Right. Yeah, you're super thin.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah,
I know. I'm working on it every day.
It is something that is in your head. Is like the food. Is the food thing like the alcohol and drugs? Like something that you have to fight, or?
No, I mean I'm pretty normal with food stuff now, but I had 6 donut holes on my way here, because like I said in my head, Joshy deserves a treat. Like, is anyone saying that to themselves?
Yeah, I think everybody
on their way to a podcast.
I didn't on the way to a podcast, but definitely people. Definitely I do. I mean,
I threw a nicotine pouch in. I had my 6 donut holes.
I want to take this off. I can't do it anymore.
I miss it.
I'll put it back on.
Maybe I'll put it on. You want me to put it on?
I think no, it's gonna be gross.
I'm glad you did double-sided tape and not like adhesive.
No. Okay, so you get to work with Matt Damon.
Yes.
Right, like recently.
Yeah.
Did you? I mean, and you have a scene together, right?
Yeah, a few.
So, offset, were you like, hey, Good Will Hunting is one of my...
Never once.
Never once.
I do this disclaimer probably too much. I have an incredibly, very, very, very small part in the new Christopher Nolan movie, Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
But I do remember walking by him in a scene where he had to be mad at me and some of the other guys in the scene.
Yeah.
And thinking in my head, oh, that's very believable. And then I thought, I'm not a good actor. Because I was like, why am I thinking about what a good actor Matt Damon is in this scene? Like, I was like, I wonder if Daniel Day-Lewis has ever been like, wow, that was very believable. Never.
I think like Leonardo DiCaprio was the other day on a viral video saying, well, my first advice to actors is like, learn your lines. You know, kind of like very basic things. I was like, yeah, you have to do the work.
Yes, but I would bet you, and not that I would ever know exactly what the great Leonardo DiCaprio or like have to explain what he's saying.
Right.
But there is a part where you'll be in scenes with actors who like half know their lines.
Yeah.
And you just can't be here. Come here, baby. You got a little tape on you, a little beard tape.
Oh, thank you.
How long's that been there?
That's like therapy. You just took,
You're welcome.
Thank you.
But yeah, I've been in scenes with actors who like only half know their lines, and it's like, oh, babe, like I've been there before where you were just lazy and like you can't even make choices because all I'm thinking about while you're delivering your lines is like, and then I say, what do I say? Like, and you're not present, you're not in it. So yeah, like really knowing them backwards and forwards is always helpful. And don't ask your wife to run lines with you because if she's like my wife, no.
It's not gonna give you anything.
Dude, we've come to blows. About, like we have literally been like, do you like this house? And she'll be like, no. I didn't sign up for this. Okay. I'm not your scene partner. Right. I'm your wife. And like, go find someone else to run lines with
It makes sense. Let me go through my quick, because Pete, how are we doing with time? Because I don't want...
We're good on time.
No, I'm saying so Josh can leave on time.
Yeah, we're good on time if we want to get...
Because I want to make sure that I didn't I didn't really look at my notes, but I had so many.
Oh, wow. I can't believe it. Did you really read the book? Or you?
Yeah, I read the book.
Wow.
I watched all your interviews.
Stop it. Thank you.
He went
oh
full
my God.
Will Hunting.
What?
He went full Will Hunting on the book.
It's unbelievable.
I went method on you.
Oh my gosh. I really just focused on the movie. I didn't even think I was going to get to talk this much about myself.
No, because also I saw that you have, with the book, you do the run, so you have to tell the same stories all the time. And I know that people are tired of doing that to themselves. I was trying to, okay, I think...
We can get to our bits here.
Okay, but I have two more questions, and then because I think these are my clever questions.
Cute.
So, did you find your apostles?
Oh, so in my book, I talk about finding your apostles.
Right.
When I did that movie with Ben Kingsley, I remember on the last day, because he's my favorite actor, I was like, do you have any advice? I'll take anything. He's like, find your apostles. And I was like, no, like I need a secret on how to be a movie star.
Right.
And he's like, no, find your apostles, find the people in your life that you can learn from, and people who raise you up in moments where you feel like you're lost, and people that you can rejoice with, but also despair with when times are tough. And if there are people in your life who don't make you feel that way, then you should probably get away from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think apostles come in and out of your life. I mean, at different times, Sir Ben Kingsley was my apostle in that moment. I learned a lot from my father-in-law, not Ketch, but he's been an apostle in my life on how to be a good present dad. Mm-hmm. Going back when I was 29 to my acting teacher, who I'll be in class with her tomorrow, and having her say to me, like, you have bad habits, and like these are the things you need to work on, because I know you think they're charming and cute, but they're actually like holding you back. So
cheats.
Yeah.
Your
cheats. And I'm like, babe, trust me, like the Nickelodeon crowd thinks these are awesome.
Right.
And she's like, you're 29.
Okay, my final question. Oh well, yeah, I forgot to ask you, like, this movie is about therapy, or like how that relationship with the therapist, did you ever do therapy? And then if so, did you have like this, profound relationship with your therapist? Was that person the one that was able to crack you open and give you that piece of advice that helped you out? Yeah,
I've gone to the same guy on and off for 18 years probably. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've benefited tremendously from therapy, and I think it just helps to have someone who I think there's power in, obviously not all of us are able to pay for therapy, but I think there's something powerful in in knowing that you've paid the, whatever the fee is to your therapist for that hour. So
right. And then final question, do you still do stand-up?
Do you ever go to therapy?
I've never been to therapy.
I could tell.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You see there's a lot going on inside.
Think about it.
For me, therapy was like Woody Allen movies, I always see that kind of and I always thought, oh, this is, I guess, what rich New Yorkers do. But do you still do stand-up?
No.
Did you only do stand-up as a kid?
Yeah, till I was 16.
Wow. Why not? Because you were good at it from the beginning, no?
Don't I got enough problems?
Right.
No thanks. I do these college gigs where I'll go do a half hour stories, stand-up bits, and then I'll do a half hour moderated Q&A.
Right.
And I love that, but it's a winning room, and they think I'm about to give them a lecture.
Right.
Right? Me going up to the Comedy Store tonight in the OR doing 5 minutes, it sounds terrible.
I mean, comedy is the one thing I think comedy, horror, where you either get it wrong or right. It's not if you make a movie and it's a comedy, nobody laughs, that's it. The judge is clear. You win, or when you do a drama, you can have those gray areas. But when you're a comedy, if you're not funny, you're not funny.
No, there's no it's not subjective.
Right. It's wow, this was hard. I was always terrified of comedy because of that, creatively. Nice. Oh, I'll do a dark comedy that is also a thriller. So if someone laughs, it's good. But if not, like I have all these other themes too.
Oh man, but I understand people like I look up to, like Bobby, and why they're at the. I mean, Bobby's what, at the store 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
I get it, because like once you figured it out and you know that you are not only good at it, but like it becomes, you get to a point, I heard Mark Maron talk about it, where you're like, I'm not going to get run off stage. Some nights are going to be better than others,
right?
But no matter what, it's going to go pretty okay. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds really exciting.
You get that energy. I see them there. It's like the superpower. You know, I make you laugh. That's a huge superpower. Oh yeah,
it's the best.
Right, but you have that superpower, right? Like you don't use it that way. You use it on a movie or on a TV show. But it's like, hey, you have done plenty of comedy.
Yes,
most of what you've done is comedy, or have that element of making people laugh. So I think it's a muscle that definitely keep doing it.
I'm only doing Nolan movies.
Is he not for now?
Nolan or bust. You know, I figure with him making one every 3 years,
right,
I'm gonna be in all the rest of his.
I mean, what a validation! No, like even as an actor, doesn't matter how big the role is. Like, hey, you get picked.
It's nice. It's an honor.
Right.
Tarantino's last movie's coming up. I'll get that.
Yes.
Gonna get a couple lines in that. What? Who else?
He hangs out at the store.
What? Does he hang out at the comedy store? It's all right. I'll meet him somewhere else. You know, I'm sure he eats.
Yes.
I'll see him at Paquito Mas or something. We'll split a shrimp burrito and we'll talk.
Yeah.
I heard that he likes mint juleps.
I haven't heard that.
Well, yeah, I haven't either. But
what I heard is something that you talk about earlier is like that when he writes a character, he doesn't care. He's not gonna go for the hot actor. He's gonna be, what is the best actor that that I can give this character to? This character needs this voice, so I'm gonna look for it. And I mean, he has the luxury of doing that.
His movies are packed with stars.
Yes, but also great performances.
Oh my God!
Like, yeah,
he's a man.
It's cool. Well, wow. Thank you, Josh.
I'd like to hear Josh's dirtiest jokes. Since Good Will Hunting has a lot of dirty jokes.
Okay, so yeah, you know how like on Good Will Hunting, there's like this moment where like they do their dirtiest jokes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like their bonding with his new girlfriend and all that. Do you have a dirty joke?
I'm trying to think. I could recite his joke verbatim from the movie.
Can you?
What does Will say? 2 pilots are flying in the plane and gets on the loudspeaker. He says, "We're gonna be flying at 35,000 feet." He puts the speaker down and he looks over at the co-pilot. He goes, "You know what I could go for right now? It's a cup of coffee and a blowjob." And all of a sudden, the flight attendant comes bombing up to the front of the airplane because everybody heard it over the loudspeaker. And one of the guys goes, "Honey, don't forget the coffee."
Yeah, good memory. Do you know the whole movie like this?
I don't. That wasn't exactly like verbatim, but how do you like them apples? I mean, that's like, come on.
How do you like them apples? Because like
I like Macintosh. Yes. I also like a Granny Smith.
Do you like them apples? Okay.
I see
all types here.
We got a Red Delicious.
Yes, we do.
We got a Fiji. Oh man, so many good ones.
Yeah.
Wow, you really I love the
how do you like them apples?
I love them all. I'm good with all apples.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming in.
This is a thank you, and I want you to say nice things to me in a moment. There's a small. It's not really dirty, but Nick Swartzen has a great joke, which is they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, which is why I put cocaine on my apples. So
yeah. Well, let me say nice things to you. I think you're the first comic actor that I met that is very, very normal.
Wow.
And I take that as a compliment.
Thank you.
Like you can have a normal life and also be super funny, and you don't need to make everybody uncomfortable around you.
Rick Glassman.
Everybody else that I work with.
Is Bobby that? I mean, I've never hung out with him in the way you have.
He's
the greatest ever. But
he is great, but he has that energy.
He's on.
He loves to make you uncomfortable.
I love it,
and that's how he gets close to you.
Yeah.
And I'm come from like I went to Catholic school, so like everything is a little more formal.
I invited him on my pod, and it took him an extra minute and a half to find parking.
Yeah.
And he just walks up, like literally once I found him, he goes, "I almost left."
Yeah.
And I'm like, welcome to the podcast.
He was invited to the Bert Kreischer premiere.
He left.
And he couldn't find parking.
Of course not.
But he also was late. So that's him. But I think he's also, like you said, he's so sensitive and he's so genuine. Also, he's a great guy to be around.
Yeah, it's the best.
But he's exhausting. Don't watch this. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. I think people should obviously tune into your podcast, read your book. I thought your book was such a great read.
Thank you.
Watch Drake and Josh or better on
Let's
watch Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Drake and Josh has had its flowers. Please watch my new shit so it gets more than one season.
Right. We need more seasons.
We've been reminded throughout this podcast.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, dude. Love you.
Love you.